talk agenda stuff.
It is. It's poison our mind. He literally got caught with the jab 3 times in a row. It's the ones that you don't see that knock you out. The boos were starting to come in a bit more.
Joshua, we can see he's adapted to try and not get hurt as much.
300 men!
My Sparta! How much damage has the Fury fights caused Wilder?
There's never really been a plan B, or if there has, he's not been able to execute it. It was a terrible, terrible fight.
You know what? I actually used to like Chisora, but then he blanked me. So I actually thought AJ in the Usyk's second fight was pretty good.
Payday!
Yeah. No, the fans won't have it, Sav.
You know what? I'm telling you.
The fans won't have it.
He's a confidence fighter.
He's now or never, Sav.
To another episode of Bloodlust Boxing. I'm Sav.
And I'm Baz.
And today's episode, Anthony Versus Deontay Wilder. News is it's close to being finalised with Eddie Hearn, but we'll get into that in a minute. But Baz, what's going on, mate? You off to court?
Nah, bro. That's I thought I'd look good for the occasion, you know.
What for the signing? You mean? Or...
Well, yeah. I mean, it's imminent, isn't it? It's gonna happen soon, surely.
Just got this image of you just waiting there with your suit jacket.
Listen, I go to sleep in this thing, so I don't know what you're on about.
It's that big of an occasion. You've decided you want to dress up for it. So, well, why not? Why not? You know.
Well, Fury Usyk isn't happening, so this has got to.
Shots fired. Anyway, let's get into it. So, Skills Challenge was in town in the O2. In fact, they were there to finalise the deal with AJ if he got the win. And according to Eddie Hearn, they're looking to thrash it out over the next couple of days to get the deal over the line. But is this the right move for AJ? And do you want to see it? Let's go.
It's a tough one, Sav. It's a tough one. There was positives. There was positives to take from it. I think it was a good night for AJ. And there's a lot of people bad-mouthing it, to be honest, in the comment section. But I think the veteran boxers, they know that he's working to a plan now.
Yeah. So, it's a tricky one. Look, I think the problem with AJ is, and we always look for the negatives, and you need to look at the positives in that fight and take that away. It's so easy just to dwell on the negatives, and I don't know why we do this in the UK. We always try and tear a man down, but
it's the talk agenda stuff.
It is. It's poison our mind. There is no agenda. They just talk about it 24/7 and give them as much grief as they can.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at it. So positives. I'll start with the positives because, as I said, we always focus on negatives. AJ's foot movement was probably the best I've seen it, to be honest. I watched the fight twice. I was watching the feet, and the movement was left, right, back, forward, sides. It wasn't circling around just like some boxers do. That was a massive improvement. Work rate was there as well. He wasn't gassing. To me,
he wasn't gassing, but then he wasn't really throwing that much. Is that because he's trying to conserve himself for 12 rounds just in case?
He reminded me very much of Errol Spence in the way he was moving around, throwing the jab and the cross, and the work rate. Although he was getting caught, and that sort of brings me on to the negative side.
It was with the jab. He was getting caught with that jab, and that's the slightly worrying thing, because if he can get caught with that, then what else can he get caught with?
I can't remember what round it was, but he literally got caught with the jab 3 times in a row, and it was all straight down the middle. The only thing with that is it's the punches he sees. It's the ones that you don't see that knock you out. So is it a case of he's happy to take those blows to avoid the big ones?
This is what I was thinking. I was thinking, because he's got that playing on his mind, everyone wants him to get that knockout. So if anything, he's happy to eat a couple of jabs to get in range to get that big right in.
Yeah, but the problem is he was taking the jabs, but he wasn't really coming in with the right hand at the time. So
but I remember him saying
you're saying that.
He was saying to Derek James though, wasn't he? He was like, I can't get that right hand off.
I can't find the right hand.
Yeah, but Derek James was like, just keep.
He wasn't committing at that time.
And he wasn't. And this is the slightly worrying thing for me. Like you said, his foot movement was better. He seemed to have better fundamental defense.
And he was setting up the traps better. So before he landed a knockout blow, he threw, I think, one to the body. He threw one to the head on the left. He went out wide, and actually the instructions from the corner, I had to turn it up loud. Derek James was saying, throw your left hand out to block the vision of Helenius, almost to smother the vision, and then come in with the right hand. So, and he did exactly that, and that's what landed a knockout blow. But it was after that round where there was a few. Well, the boos were starting to come in a bit more. What did you make of the boos?
I think it was a bit harsh. Listen, you can't compare Wilder's knockout of Helenius to AJ's, because before that, if you actually watched Helenius fight, Wilder was getting hit with a lot before he actually got that knockout punch.
First round though, man.
I know, but he was looking to trade from off the mark. So if he does that with AJ, I feel like AJ is going to be so much more calculated.
Helenius said that he was confused because normally Wilder boxes off the front foot rather than back foot, so he drew him in and he got caught.
Yeah. I think he just got a bit lucky. He got a bit lucky with that. But
and there is the thing as well. Wilder and Helenius were sparring buddies for a long time. I think they were a lot closer than AJ and Helenius were. I think AJ and Helenius sparred in the past, but I think it's been a while. Whereas Wilder and Helenius have had sparring sessions fairly. They probably used him for the Fury fight, to be honest.
Probably
that similar sort of stature.
Helenius had his chin up in the air the whole time. I feel like if AJ put his foot down and pressed Helenius, he could have easily got
this
him
is what I said in the
first couple of rounds.
Last video. I said if you put the pressure on Helenius, then he backs up, and he backs up in straight lines like what you were saying before. But you need to put the pressure on, and AJ was reluctant to do that. I mean, is that a problem?
You know what? I think it's a good thing with Wilder, because I don't think he should be taking him on head on. And in terms of, like, everyone's saying, his reluctance to throw will be a bad thing, but I kind of think it's a strength, because look at Fury. He got caught on the way in sometimes, and it almost got him knocked out clean.
Yeah.
So if AJ fights off the back foot a bit and just takes his time, the purpose of today's training, Sav, is to defeat yesterday's understandings. So
what just happened there, mate?
what do you mean?
Did you just get taken over by Buddha or something, like throwing out some?
Well, listen, what I mean by that is Wilder hasn't learned nothing from his first fights. He always fights the same. Now, with Joshua, we can see he's adapted to try and not get hurt as much. I know it didn't really work too well with the jab, but I think he'll be able to avoid most of the bigger punches, and that's what Wilder's about.
We've seen AJ under Derek James twice now. How do you think he compares with all the other trainers?
See, I actually thought AJ in the Usyk's second fight was pretty good.
Yeah.
He was working the jab well. He wasn't really just using it as a rangefinder.
Head movement, wasn't there? He was slipping the shots a lot better.
Yeah, and he was throwing more. He wasn't really gassing out either, to be honest. So I think he could throw more. I think the engine was better than definitely the first fight, but yeah, I think there was still a little bit of a fitness thing there. I think in this fight under Derek James, his engine looked really good, because if you look at it, he was twitching a lot. He was, as I said, he was doing all the foot movement. He was controlling the ring from the outside. Yeah.
So he was probably working harder in this latest fight than he was in Usyk 2. But were the results better? I don't know. So
yeah. Do you think this long wait for this fight between these two, do you think it's affected either of them?
With Wilder versus AJ?
Yeah. Do you think it's going to be better for either of them waiting this long?
Well, I think it's good. AJ has been active, hasn't he? So he's been a lot more active than Deontay Wilder has. If you think when Wilder last fought Helenius, and it was one round, it was done.
Yeah.
That's someone he was comfortable with. So I think AJ being active is going to be better for AJ.
And how much damage has the Fury fights caused Wilder?
Well, that's the question, and I've been thinking about that myself, and the best analogy that I can come up with, is, and I don't know if it's a case of mentality wise or just general levels. So with AJ, like if you picture like an empty bucket, and you fill it up with water, but then you start getting a few holes, and that bucket will start to empty out of water, and the more damage you get, the more holes you get. And the more holes, the harder it is to fill that bucket up. So with AJ at the moment, he's constantly talking about improving, working to get better. But the thing with time is that it's going to be 2 or 3 times as hard to fill the bucket up. So even though he's doing all this training, he's working hard, he's taking damage along the way, and it's taking 3 times as longer to improve the levels. So
bit like you with this analogy, isn't it? Really,
it's taking time.
That was like watching paint dry. I ain't gonna lie.
It's deep, man. It's deep. I just had to go there.
You're going on that wise man thing. You know?
So, in short, basically,
yeah. You think
AJ's talking.
There's too much permanent damage there. That's been done.
There's things that's edged away at him, and just I think natural age, and he's having to work a lot harder to get to these levels. But
yeah.
So even though in some areas he's improved, he's having to work 3 times as hard to get there.
You can understand like why AJ wants to sort of avoid these big toe-to-toe fights, can't you? Because he doesn't want it to result in.
It's annoying because I wanted to say it first, but actually Gareth A. Davies came out with a great point, and I think who was it? Sam Jones also said it as well. AJ's trying to be a bit more like Klitschko, or he's almost mirroring that direction. I was actually going to say that in our last video, but it never came out.
Yeah,
and I kind of agree with it. I think AJ, and especially with some of the comments I've seen him say over the last week, I think he's trying to mirror that Klitschko type of era.
He's trying to build himself for longevity.
Yeah, and he might not necessarily be the most exciting fighter along the way, but he's going to get the wins, and that's what he wants to do. So
it's not really going to win him over the fans,
he mentioned he had a word with Klitschko as well, and I think he's going to try and mirror that same sort of style. And Derek James is the perfect trainer to help that with him. We saw in the fight when it wasn't quite working that AJ was able to take on the instructions from Derek James and make a change, where he struggled with that in the past. There's never really been a plan B, or if there has, he's not been able to execute it during the fight. Whereas against Helenius, from what Derek James was saying, he was able to get it off.
The question is, can he follow those instructions when he's under a lot of pressure?
I think
when he's losing the fight. Do you think he'll follow through with it?
He's got 100% confidence in Derek James. And there is a good bond there. I think
that's my feeling.
That there is a great bond there. So I think the relationship, even though under Garcia, AJ looked in some ways better, he's responding better to Derek James. So in the longer term, this is going to be better for him. Just frozen up there. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to touch on as well is the booze. So no one's really said it, but if you're watching, I can't remember how many rounds it was in the end. Was it 10 rounds with Derek Chisora versus Washington? That it was a terrible fight. And Eddie Hearn said he didn't want. Well, Derek Chisora said Eddie Hearn didn't want him on the fight, and we know why. And that fight, like, it was putting people to sleep. And then so AJ got the brunt of that. I think had we gone from the Hrgovic fight straight into the AJ fight, you wouldn't have been hearing the booze.
Yeah, he bit the bullet for it, didn't he?
And we were looking at the ticket prices as well. Like, some of the ticket prices in the good seats were about 350 quid or so. And as you go back, it was still really expensive.
Yeah.
So if you're paying 300 plus quid for a fight, your patience is going to be thin.
Yeah.
What they
and to be honest, it was all the way up till the last point as well. That those ticket prices stayed the same. They could have easily have changed.
There was a lot of returns. I did check, and there was a lot of returns. I've got a feeling on the night that they managed. Well, they gave out a lot of complimentary tickets. Plus, there might have been a few tickets sold on the door. But when you're charging that amount of money, you're not going to get patient fans.
Yeah. And like you said, the Chisora fight was
Yeah, and speaking about Chisora, what do you think happens next?
You know what? I actually used to like Chisora, but then he blanked me, so...
I know.
I'm not gonna let that outside, bro. Like,
he might have been going to the toilet, man. Like,
I don't care, bro.
He
just straight out blanked me. I'm not a small guy either. I'm like 6'1".
You probably saw a video on Fury and Chisora.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Payday. He's like, oh, no. But yeah, I think it's time to retire now. He definitely, if he didn't show it before, it definitely shows it now. And
I mean, he come out with some comments after that. He said he did say he lost a friend during the week. And that played a part in it. I mean, it will, but then at the same time, he's probably had a full camp still. So the fitness and finishes still been there.
If your mind's not in it, you can give almost.
It's understandable. It's understandable, but I think it is time. I think it is time.
But I think he was there for the taking. Yeah. Joe Washington was popping the jab out. He looked technically better. He just looked like he just stopped.
If he had a bit more foot movement, he could have worked the ring a bit.
Yeah,
and probably just won on points.
It's one of those where it's kind of like I can probably push it, but do I really need to? Like, it's not for anything in particular. Whereas, I think he could have pushed it. And then we had Hrgovic fighting also. What did you think of that fight?
It was a bit slow, that one as well. Like, I think they were quite evenly matched. But I weren't really rating Hrgovic's performance again. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, it was against another southpaw. So Dempsey McKean, obviously a southpaw. We had Zhili Zhang, southpaw. And in both fights, he's looked amazing, although he was better in this fight. Dempsey McKean came in really good shape.
I think he can hang around in the top table for a bit.
Yeah, he looked in really good condition. It's a shame for him that he didn't see it out to the end because it was competitive. I enjoyed it. I think it's more a fight for the boxing purists than for the casual fans.
It was a bit more of a chess match, wasn't it?
With Hrgovic, it is good practice for him because he is lining up to fight Usyk, but it's just a case of...
Does it look promising for him for Usyk, though?
It's a tricky one. I think he's still recovering from the loss of his father. I obviously can't speak on that on his behalf, but after the first fight after the fight with Zhang, he looked really poor. But there's definitely something wrong there. And in this fight, he looked better. He wasn't turning away. Like, I think he did it like once, but against Zhang, he kept turning away, didn't he?
Yeah.
So there were improvements. Only time will tell, and time will help him out. So I think he'll show improvements. He needs that big fight, really. He's been waiting for a while as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. How about the Bosch Army?
Johnny Fisher.
Oh, Johnny Fisher, son.
Great fight that was. Yeah.
Banging fight.
That
was probably the most exciting fight of the night, I think, for me.
Yeah, definitely. There was the flash. What was it? Flash knockdown in the first round, do you reckon? Definite knockdown.
Definite knockdown. But I think he's just got a great chin. Yeah. That was an exciting fight. Keep it up, Johnny.
Yeah, and he had to take a few shots in that fight as well, Johnny Fisher, didn't he?
Yeah. So it tested him. It was a good test. So this is the type of fights we want him in.
Yeah, he needs to keep stepping up. Yeah, respects to Harry Armstrong. He came to fight and he left it all in the ring, which is what you want to see. We, as you said, we just need to see Johnny Fisher step it up now. Just keep stepping it up and move up through the ranks.
I think he's ready.
Yeah, if they keep stepping it up, he's got a good trainer.
Yeah.
So, okay, we've talked about it. Do you think AJ should have that fight next with Wilder?
He's now or never, Sav. I think he's just got to sign the thing and just get it done because we want to see this fight. Everyone wants to see this fight. And I think it's now or never, really. It's got to be done. How about yourself?
You know what? Before this fight, I would have said yes. And Helenius was perfect opponent for AJ to build his confidence. I think he needs one more similar stature to Helenius, and he needs to get another knockout.
He ain't got the time for it, though. So he ain't got the time.
If he could fit in one more fight before Deontay Wilder,
Who would he fight then? Who would he fight? Go on, quick one.
I did have someone in mind, and it's gone from my mind now. But someone similar stature to Helenius, because as I said before, AJ, he does well against those tall boxers who are a little bit slow, and I think he just needs to get that. As I said, he needs to get out another knockout. His confidence clearly grew from that knockout.
Nah. The fans won't have it, Sub.
You know what? I'm telling you.
The fans won't have it.
He's a confidence fighter. Watching an interview with Frank Warren on TalkSport, he was talking about Calzaghe and how Calzaghe didn't want to get in a fight with Lacey. And he had to G him into that fight, say to him he's the best fighter. And he managed to get him into that fight and he won. So, and reading about Calzaghe, he was always a confidence fighter. He said he struggled with nerves along the way. AJ is a confidence fighter. He needs someone to G him up. He needs to get that confidence. And if he's going in 50-50, he's only going to lose the fight. I think one more fight, get a knockout, get the confidence sky high, then you go into that fight with Wilder.
Nah, I'm not having it. I'm not having it, Sub.
All right.
He ain't got the time to fight no one else.
Well,
if he fights anyone else now, that's below par. The fans are going to rip him.
It doesn't have to be in a massive stadium. It could be a smaller stadium.
All right. In a smaller stadium, but it can't be a subpar fighter. Otherwise, the fans are going to rip him to shreds.
I think if you build a good card, great undercard, maybe get a title fight under there, it could work.
Let's agree to disagree then.
Well, anyway, we hit 300 subs in the last week or so, so a massive thank you to everyone.
Bosh!
300 men!
My Sparta!
So thank you for joining the army and
Bloodlust army.
Yeah, if you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe.
Peace.
Yeah.